Welcome to Talking Grit.
Welcome to another episode of Talking Grit. You can follow us on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. Follow us wherever you want. We don't really, I guess, I would say YouTube is probably our preferred, but anywhere else you want to find us, go ahead and do that. You could find us on Twitter. We are pretty responsive on Twitter, so that's at Talking Grit Pod. And no matter where you listen to us, please like, subscribe, follow us. It gets us out to more people, and that's our goal, is to have as many people listen and talk to us as much as possible. All right, I'm Jason Harwood. I'm your host. With me is Jacob Litton. We're doing our NFL pod. Lots of stuff to talk about this week. We're going to focus on the trade deadline stuff. There's obviously a couple blockbusters that happen. We're going to talk about that. Then we're also going to talk about the Lions' lack of moves and how we feel about that. But before we do all that, Jacob, let's move into the NFC North and kind of update people where we're at with that.
All right. So the standings for the NFC North as follows. The Packers are still leading the division. They are 5-2-1. They lost to the Panthers at home. Really ugly game for the the one seed in the NFC for the Packers. Just another week where they have not looked very impressive to me. I'm sure their fans are kind of, they got to be getting a little worried, right? Especially after the huge injury that they suffered during that game. Tucker Kraft, they lose him to an ACL injury, out for the season. He's their number one receiver. He's been that safety blanket for Jordan Love. Anytime Love is under pressure, throw it up in the air and let Tucker Kraft shove some people out of the way and catch the ball. But that's a big loss for them.
Literally shove them out of the way.
Right. That's a big loss for the Packers, definitely. Mm-hmm. And they, for as good of a squad that they have, they just can't seem to get things going all at the same time. And this was just another, losing to the Panthers at home and only scoring 10 points was just a terrible game for them. Speaking of terrible games.
They were favored by like 13.5, weren't they? I mean, it was ridiculous.
No, largely favored. And I even made a joke about that I, in the upset of the week. Yeah. Like, as much as I would like to say that the Packers, lose to the Panthers, I don't see that happening. Maybe I wished it upon them, and I'll just keep doing that week in and week out. No, speaking of terrible games, though, number 2, the Lions, 5-3 right now, lost the Vikings at home. We don't want to talk about that anymore. We want to move on from that. The Bears now are also 5-3, though. So the Bears beat the Bengals in a crazy back and forth game where defense just didn't exist. Just unbelievable. Colson Loveland with like a 40 or 50 yard touchdown, bounces off 2 defenders. The Bengals defense is just bad. And especially right there where you just really need to lock in, to give up a play like that is really, really bad. Looking more and more like that Joe Burrow is just going to sit the rest of this year out. No need to come back and subject yourself to this. Bears are facing the Giants at home this week. And then ringing in the rear for the NFC North, the Vikings, 4-4. It's funny because we talked to these Vikings fans and they were all almost ready to throw in the towel on the season. And how quickly things change. They beat the Lions in Ford Field, a huge win for them. And now all of a sudden they're ready to take on anybody, and they're not so scared of the Ravens. They get to face the Ravens at home this week. So, NFC North, still a really good division. Teams are beating each other up. As expected, but nobody's separating themselves. It's still anybody's game here.
Yep. Yeah, everyone kind of controls their own destiny in this. If they keep winning out, they could win that division. It was crazy. Viking fans are basically like, we were on that other pod. The surprise for me was they were not very happy with KOC, which he won Coach of the Year last year. That was shocking to me. And then all of a sudden they win. And we go live on, we're doing our podcast live Monday night, and it is suddenly filled with overconfident Vikings fans that, were silent. And then all of a sudden, they come in and want to share their piece, which, okay, that's fine. Welcome to the party or whatever. But it was, quite a change.
They've been waiting for a really long time to get on us Lions fans. They have not beaten us in a while. And this one did not hold nearly as much weight as the last one did. Or the last 2, even, you could say, from last year. So, whatever. We'll let them have this one.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, we had won 5 in a row versus them. And that includes Dan Campbell's first win as a Lion. That was the very first win was against them, and that started the the streak. But we're gonna give them a nice Christmas present on Christmas Day, and we'll get back to them.
Right.
It was as frustrating as it was for the Lions to lose. It would have been even more frustrating had Green Bay won, especially if they would have like came back and won or something like that after seeing how they were down. But we could have been if we'd have just handled business, we'd be in first place right now.
Right. That's on us. So yes, it was
Yeah,
helpful.
exactly.
Lessen the blow that the Packers lost to.
Right. Let's move on to the trade deadline. Lots of action this week, and basically the season too. 25 trades you marked on here, the most since 2000. There was a lot like towards the end of training camp where people were like, "We're going to cut this guy, let's move him around," which you're starting to see a little bit more of. But blockbuster trades, I mean, obviously the Micah Parsons one that happened right before the season, and then which we're going to talk about in this segment. But there was more than two trades, but there was two blockbuster ones, both by the Jets. First one was Sauce Gardner to the Colts. That blew my mind. I did not expect that to happen. I'm sure you were just as surprised as I was.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a young core player that you're building around, and then for Aaron Glenn, this is his first year. You kind of think, especially AG being a defensive back, you think he'd try to hold on to these guys, and I've not heard any additional stories behind that. If that was Sauce wanting out, if that was just them not wanting to pay him anymore, or if they just got a call from the Colts. I know the Colts, supposedly were calling around about corners, and the Colts just called and said, "Hey, we've got 2 firsts and a receiver for this guy." And maybe that offer in a rebuilding season was just an offer they couldn't refuse. It was just too good, because that's unheard of to get 2 first-round picks and a player for a defensive back, especially in the middle of the season like this.
Yeah, I know. Well, I think the last time that happened would be Jamal Adams, right?
Well,
I mean, the Jets did that.
Jalen Ramsey, I think, was the last one to get multiple firsts, and that was when the Rams won the Super Bowl.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that was
just very infrequent,
signed. Yeah, they just signed him to the extension, which was surprising. But 2 firsts for Adonai Mitchell. I think he's a second round. He was a second round wide receiver, right? I mean, he's pretty young. I know he had where he dropped the ball right before the end zone, so maybe he fell out of favor.
That was the only loss. That was the only loss the Colts had for a while, was when he dropped that ball. So they were not happy with him.
No. So that was the first of the blockbuster trades. And then Quinnen Williams goes to the Cowboys, which I want to talk about this trade on both ends, okay? For the Jets, getting another first rounder, they get a second rounder next year, and they get Mozzie Smith back. So they're going to replace a player, obviously a lesser player than Quinnen Williams, but high draft pick, probably has not performed to what the Cowboys expected when they drafted him. But now the Jets have 5 first-round picks in the next 2 years. You've not only done that, you've unloaded major money. I mean, you cleared up draft or cap space this year, which will carry to next year, plus the money you were going to spend on Quinn Williams and Sauce Gardner. First of all, what do you think? I mean, is this a good move overall, trading these 2 players for the Jets? I mean, they're essentially giving up on this year and maybe even next year, because I mean, those draft picks are just going to hit. What do you think about this from the Jets' perspective first?
I mean, time will tell whether this was the right move or not, right? I mean, on the surface, you're going to have to see who they get with these picks, and you're going to have to see what the Colts do and then what the Cowboys are able to do with anything with these guys. But obviously, AG is no stranger to the rebuild. He was here in Detroit. He knew, what it was going to take. He obviously knows the importance on hitting on these draft picks and getting these guys on a rookie deal. So, I mean, the blueprint is in place. So I think if I'm a Jets fan, I'm not happy, but you know what? The season's already over with. But when you think about these 2 guys being gone, then you kind of do worry about the future. You start to worry about next year. You start to worry about, what are we going to do? Is this, have we just entered a 3-year rebuild before we're even playoff contenders anymore? Because you're going to have to hit on these draft picks. You don't want to use these as more draft capital, right? Like, you don't want to use them to trade up or get different players or anything like that. That is what it is. I mean, they intend on making these picks. So, if they hit on most of these picks, then all of a sudden they're, where the Lions are, where we're competitive for, years to come. So, I guess the bait has been set, so they're going to see. Time will tell exactly what's going to happen for the Jets here. I don't hate the move,
So
though.
I actually think it's, again, we have to see what they do with these draft picks, but I look at it this perspective. Do the Jets' own pick next year could possibly be number 1 overall? Okay, if it's there, then they get the quarterback that they want because they're going to obviously need a young quarterback. They're not going to go forward with Justin Fields, or who's their Tyrod? Is it Tyrod Taylor? Who's their backup? Yeah, Tyrod Taylor, right? So neither one of those guys are going to be the guy. So ideally they've got 1 win this season. They traded away their obviously their top 2 defenders. They on pace to get the first overall pick, so they won't have to package any of their picks, these first round picks, to move up and get their guy. Now they can say they do pull off another win or 2 this season. However, I'm going to say that since they've already given up on the season, since they've given up these picks, I'm not saying they're not going to go try to win, because AJ is not going to play like that, but they've struggled to win with these guys, and now their 2 best defenders are gone off this team. I think it's a good move to get a Donnie Mitchell. You get wide receiver. You could pair with Garrett Wilson, a young wide receiver that's going to be cheaper for a couple seasons, and you got these draft picks. If you hit on the quarterback, then you're going to be pretty good. I expect AG to put a competitive team out there. He was never going to turn this team around in year 1. And if you look at the Lions, are on that same, they were, same thing. It's like setting a culture, setting a mindset, getting the people in place, and that takes more than 1 season to do that. But they got to hit on these draft picks. If they don't hit on these draft picks, then it looks really bad. Let's move to the Cowboys end of the Quinnen Williams deal. Oh, go ahead.
Hang on, though. So, because right now the Jets have the third overall pick, because the Saints and the Titans are both, also 1 win and they're lower. Yeah. The Titans, you don't have to worry about taking a quarterback. They just did that. But the Saints are probably going to be taking a quarterback too. And like you already said, I don't think AG is going to go out here with the mindset of like, we're not going to win or we're going to tank or whatever. But I mean, maybe ownership, and maybe that's kind of part of the move as well, is like, let's just, we'll get that pick. I also, if you look at the draft prospects, there's not a surefire. Yeah. There's not like a quarterback sitting at number 1 that's like leaps and bounds above anybody else.
Yep. I mean, you're not going to spend that on Arch Manning, how everyone expected that. The race from Arch, he's like not even. He wouldn't
Does he even get drafted
in the first round right now.
Right.
He wouldn't even be drafted. I mean, he'd be drafted just based on his name alone. But man, he doesn't look good right now. So, but he's making plenty of NIL money. He'll be fine.
Yeah, he might hang out in
college. I want to talk about the Quinnen Williams trade from the Cowboys' perspective. If I was a Cowboys fan, I'd be pissed. I don't understand this move at all for them. Not even for this season. Okay, next season you get him. But wouldn't you traded away the first rounder? I don't know which first rounder they traded. I don't know if it was their own or if it's the one they're going to get from the Packers.
I saw something that was like, it was some sort of like stipulation or something, like whichever draft pick was higher was the one that they had to give them. And I've not heard of that being a thing before. Like in NBA, they have like, protected picks or like whatever, but I have not heard of that being a thing in the NFL, that you can wait till the end of the season to decide which pick that they get.
All right. Well, that's interesting if that's the case. But so now you've given up one of the picks, essentially, whether it's the Packers pick or not, you've given up one of the picks that you counted on in the Micah Parsons trade. And then you get Quinnen Williams, who is older, plays a less premium position, and you're going to be paying him like in the 27 million. Now, Micah would be more, but he's also going to be more productive. I just don't understand this trade on the surface at all for the Cowboys. It's like making a move to make a move. I don't get it. Do you understand it at all from a Cowboys perspective?
I mean, you're getting another all-pro defensive tackle, and now your defensive tackles are loaded. You have an immediate upgrade at that position, but you're right. You still don't really have the edge help. I don't have it right in front of me right now, but I mean, you basically took Micah Parsons and traded him for Quinnen Williams, right? Like, you switched these picks around. You lost a second. The Cowboys still have 2 first-round picks in this draft coming up. It's next, the 2027.
It's 2027 first.
Right, mm-hmm. Right. And then in that one, they still will have, either theirs or the Packers. So they've still got round 1, 2, 3. So, I mean, it's not like they're sitting in terrible shape with the draft picks. They traded for a linebacker from the Bengals too. So I mean, I guess Jerry Jones is at least trying. They're trying to make an effort here, but you're right. It's just hard to think of two really good defensive tackles because you got, Kenny Clark too, making that much of a difference. Edge is a premium position and you lost a premium player. So is that going to be on your radar with one of these round one picks now? I don't know.
But I just don't get it from a money perspective or whatever. I'd rather have a premium, when I say premium, I mean, Micah Parsons is like premium of premium, right? Right up there in the top, you're talking the top 3 end linebacker, whatever position you want to call him, edge player. He is one of the top 3 players at that position. And then you get Quinnen Williams, who is a good defensive tackle, but like I said, he's older, and I'd rather have that edge help. I just don't get it. And like you said, they already have some defensive tackle help. I mean, Quinnen Williams is definitely an upgrade, but I just don't understand why you could make this move. Like did his pride, like it feels like his pride about Micah Parsons just got in the way of them making a deal with him. Like, and it's become more and more apparent with this trade. They didn't even I just don't get it from any Cowboys perspective. I think it's a terrible trade.
Yeah, I mean, so for Clark and for Quinnen Williams, those two players combined, I think, are still like $2 million cheaper than what Micah is getting per year.
Right.
But like we've already said, then, who do you have at? And it'd be different if they had other edge defenders that were like, hey, we'll just throw in this guy or that guy. They've got Clowney now, which he's past his prime.
Yeah.
To be buyers at the trade deadline on a season where it looks like you're not going to make the playoffs is kind of wild.
Yes. Well, that's it too. It's like they were, they're 3-5-1. I think they're 3-5-1 at this point. That is like, are you trading for the future? Okay, then I if you had Mike at this, you'd be better than 3-5-1, especially with that offense. You'd be better than 3-5-1 at this point. I just don't get it. And and Jerry Jones he's the same guy that traded 2 first rounders for Roy, right? Traded for Roy Williams.
Right.
Yeah, he just makes some crazy deals that I just don't see him working out. So that blew my mind.
I mean, at the same time, they had Micah last year, and they had a losing record, right? They didn't make the playoffs last year. So, yes, he's a difference maker on third down, but I don't think that he needs other people around him for run defense and for right.
This offense this year, he'd have made a big difference. Getting George Pickens has made their offense, I mean, much more dangerous.
Right.
So I don't know. I know a lot of Lions fans were upset that the Eagles made a deal, but they got Jalen Phillips. I mean, they made multiple trades this year. None of it moves the needle for me for the Lions, and I just don't want to see it. I didn't want to trade draft capital for these guys these are available. What other trades did you want to highlight?
I think it's noteworthy that the Bears made a trade, right? So they traded for a defensive end, Joe Tryon-Shoyinka. So he's a former first-round pick just a few years ago, has not really played at a high level. So it's not a Micah Parsons level noteworthy trade, but just noteworthy in the sense that Ryan Poles yet again makes a trade at the deadline, and they're not afraid to just bring in some fresh legs. And they have injuries at edge. They decided to bring in some depth, and that's one of the things I think makes Lions fans a little upset too, is just, you see all these other teams, and with Jalen Phillips, the Eagles, it's like, man, the Eagles are already good. Now the Eagles are getting better. It feels like the other teams around you are getting better, and we're kind of standing pat with an injured team, which we'll get into that in a second. But, those two, and then Rashid Shaheed to the Seahawks. I know that you put that on here too. That's a huge get. The Seahawks have been a really good team this year, and now they've just added another level to it. And that's after they just torched the Commanders last week, and now Shaheed is a downfield threat. So that, the Seahawks are going to be a problem.
Yeah, JSN over the middle just got even more dangerous. Him and Darnold connect really well, and then you're going to have Rashid Shaheed clearing off the top. I didn't like to see that trade. That was honestly the trade that I saw that was like, oh God, because if the Lions do what we want them to do, we're going to have to beat the Seahawks at some point in the playoffs, unless they get upset somewhere along the way. And I just didn't want to make them even more dangerous.
Right.
So let's
back
move
to
on
my point. Other teams around us getting better. Other competitors are getting better, and we're kind of just standing pat with where we're at.
Yep. So let's just start with the simple question, Jacob. Are you surprised that the Lions didn't make any moves at all?
No. I think that would
Okay.
be weird for anybody, any Lions fan that's been into it. I think it'd be weird for you to say that you're genuinely surprised that we did not make a move. I think in my
Yeah.
head, it was probably 80-20 that we were not going to make a move. Now, obviously, there's always a part of me that's just waiting for that screen to flash and say, Max Crosby to the Lions, or, like as a fan, you want one of those big players. You want one of those big time things. You want help right now, to boost your chances at the Super Bowl this year.
Mm-hmm. All right. So number 2 question is, are you frustrated that the Lions didn't make a move?
I can't say that I'm frustrated. It is what it is. They know what's in the building. They know what we're up against. And it's different, like from last season, when we traded for Zadarius, that was kind of in the line of Hutch isn't coming back. We need help. We're not going to have any kind of reinforcements. Most of our guys are coming back. If we did trade for a corner, because a lot of people are asking about a cornerback, well, DJ Reed is on the way. Terrion is already back. We kind of, avoided that scare. Offensive line, you could say, hey, we need to get an offensive lineman back. Mahogany may come back at some point. They've got other people in the building. And I'm sure that calls were made, but I'm just sure that whatever teams were asking for just was not worth it. And, I've got the quote on here. Dan Campbell said, yeah, maybe, yeah, he's a little better. Is it really worth what you're giving up versus the next guy we have ready to go as the backup? It's coming off of the vet squad. So that's exactly like they know what's in the building. They know who's in the practice squad. We signed a few more players. And, Dan Campbell's fully confident that we're going to be able to get these guys, going, get them up to speed. Time's going to tell whether that's the right move or wrong move. But you can't. It's hard to bring an offensive lineman in. Zeitler was out there, right? Like we could have traded and brought Zeitler back. That would have been probably the easiest or smoothest transition. But even then, you got to move Ratledge across the other side. There's different things at play. There's just no guarantee that that's going to be any better than moving one of these guys off the vet squad that's cheaper. And then we don't have to give up any draft picks that are very valuable, especially with the cap position that we're in now. So, yeah, I can't say that I'm frustrated that they didn't make a move. Obviously, like I just said, the fan in me, like that would have been awesome. But yeah, it's great that you get Max Crosby or Trey Hendrickson or, any of these guys. You get them right now. That's awesome. I'm fully on board. But I'm going to miss that first round pick or those future picks that we're giving up and the cap space, right? I mean, they're going to be temporary players. So, yeah, can't say that I'm frustrated. Where are you at, though?
I'm okay. I think people's expectations, the people that are frustrated, I think, okay, we need offensive line help. People aren't trading around starters and offensive. There's the offensive linemen in this league were devoid of talent. There's less starters than there are teams. I mean, people are playing backups, especially after injuries start. No one has like good starters just sitting on the bench taking up space. Everybody would want, another guard, another tackle. So they're not going to be readily giving those up. They're not going to be cheap. You brought up Zeitler. Yes, ideally, I mean, we look around the league, okay, the Titans are probably out of it, but they have a rookie quarterback. Are they going to want to give up offensive line help to potentially get him hurt? I mean, those are all things that, you have to think about. Like, we got to think about the future too. Those what those teams are. So you're going to have to give up something. Is it worth giving up that? And then you're going to pay half of Zeitler's salary, which is like $9 million. So you're going to pay like $4.5 million. You're going to lose that cap space towards next year. I think, like you said, we hopefully get Mahogany back and that'll solve the issue. We talked about, I think on our last pod, like, okay, you get Zeitler. Now you got to move Ratledge over. So that's another thing you got to think about. Like, okay, so I'm moving Ratledge over, a rookie. Now he's going to be, a downgrade at the left guard position compared to Mahogany. What are we going to do when Mahogany comes back? There's all sorts of complications that happen with that. And the Dan Campbell quote is true. Like any player that we bring in, are they going to be marginally better than what we already have on this team? Number one, they're going to have to get caught up to speed. At least the guys on the team practice. They know our, concepts or whatever they're, whatever position they're at. They know, what to do. They know the scheme. They know all that stuff. So you'd have to get a guy up to speed. Number two, you're going to have to give up something for this person. So you're giving up draft capital. And then number three, okay, we're going to have to make another roster move. We might have to, lose someone to the practice squad, so you're going to lose a player. I'm okay with the way it is. I don't look at like we weren't going to make I couldn't see like a lot of places where we really needed to upgrade on offense other than the offensive line. Maybe we could ask for another wide receiver, but I don't know. I mean, I don't see the Lions working that in. They're not even putting Tesla in there. So, and I just don't see how that's going to make a difference. It takes Goff a while to work with a wide receiver. We're obviously not going to ask for any running backs. Tight end, we're set. So it'd be the offensive line. And then defensively, where are you going to add? I know people have talked about corner, but you said we're going to get DJ Reed back. So are we trading for this player for like a couple weeks? Because, you already got a top back with a Meek, right? And I'm like you. I think TA is a serviceable starter in this league, and I expect him to get better. He's not going to get better if you bench him. He's just not. I want to have him out there. I thought he just got his first interception. I think he's been playing better this year. I know he gets the penalties. I know there people have their strong opinions about TA, but you want him out there. You're not going to replace. I mean, I guess we could go safety if you think Kirby's going to be out for a while, but I mean the odds are Kirby's going to be back. Hopefully within a couple weeks, and you're not going to replace Branch. We're not going to replace any of our linebackers, and we're going to be getting Malcolm Rodriguez back, within a couple weeks here. We don't need defensive line help. I mean, we've been getting enough sacks. We've been getting enough pressure. We're steady at the middle, especially since we got Aleem. So I don't know where people thought they were going to get this trade where we're going to do it. Was the offensive line or bust for me. That's where we'd have to trade for if something worked out. Maybe a late round swap of a pick or something like that. Nothing happened. So I assume that nothing was worth their while. It's not like Brad Holmes is like ignoring that. Like he's not negligent in that way. But
Yeah,
that'd be the
I
only
think
position I would trade for.
the people that are upset though are just the people circling the Max Crosbys, the Trey Hendrickson, the high profile names, not the names that are like, hey, we just need, like how you said, they're not thinking rational about where with injuries, where these guys are going to play, where they're at. They're just thinking about upgrades, and they're thinking about getting star players. As if we were going to call the Bengals and say, we'll give you a 6th and a 7th for Trey Hendrickson. And they were going to say, okay, here you go. That's just not going to happen. And real quick, back to the offensive line before we move on, though, is like, Mahogany got hurt. It's not out of the question that Graham slides over. You've got Tristan Colon, who's played guard, but he's also played center. We've got Kingsley on there. Maybe this is the time where it's like, what, Graham struggled a little bit. Let's move him back over and let's give one of these other guys a shot at center. So there's a lot of moving parts to this that they're going to have to try to figure out what combination of linemen works best for us. And I just hope that it's only the interior and that Panay and Taylor do not miss time. Because then that's really bad.
Yeah. We talk more about the offensive line in our preview pod, so you could check that out on there. Let's move over to Grit Picks. Jacob, I'll let you, since you won last week, I'll let you talk about how we fared.
All right. Last week, Thursday night football, Ravens at Dolphins. Jason said Dolphins. He was wrong. I said Ravens. Sunday night football, Seahawks at Commanders. We both picked the Seahawks, and man, did they come out firing. Really, really impressive game. And then Cardinals at Cowboys. It's funny because I said before, the Cardinals are just the Cowboys' kryptonite. Like, for some reason or another, the Cowboys just cannot beat the Cardinals. And even with Jacoby Brissett, the Cardinals were able to move the ball effectively, and they were able to beat the Cowboys. So we were both wrong there. That brings us to, so last week Jason went 1-2. I went 2-1. So we're still neck and neck, though. Overall, I'm 17-15 this year. He's 15-17.
I like how you said even with Jacoby Brissett, they offense moved. I think they're better with Jacoby Brissett.
It's funny that now Kyler is on IR. Like, that was not mentioned before, and then Brissett played pretty well, and now they're like, you know what? It was the timing of that was weird. They're like, okay, you know what?
Yeah,
he's going to be our starter moving forward. And they're like, actually, because Kyler's going on IR. Like, it sounds like you kind of just decided to bench him, but okay.
Jacob. So let's get to this week's picks. Thursday night football, Raiders at Broncos. This one is a huge mismatch. I'm assuming we're both going Broncos, but I'll start out with I am taking the Broncos. They are favored by 10.5.
Not so fast here. No, I'm just kidding. So the Broncos,
good.
Broncos have
I was hoping you picked the Raiders.
Listen, so the Broncos have a 7-2 record. They're top 10 offense, top 5 defense, right? And then you flip it over, the Raiders are 2-6. They're at the bottom of offense. They're at the bottom of defense. Geno Smith hasn't looked good. The rookie running back, Ashton Genty, has really struggled. The offensive line's bad. Really, the only bright spot for the Raiders right now is Brock Bowers. right? And I mean, even Brock Bowers was enough to almost win the game last week against the Jaguars. I don't know if you caught that, but that one went into overtime, and the Raiders
that was a
scored.
fun game.
Yeah, and then they went for 2. They didn't get it. I mean, they almost won, which was funny because I think that was the right call to go for 2 instead of trying to just play and move on for the tie. But it didn't turn out in their favor. But anyway, Brock Bowers needed 3 touchdowns. He was the only one moving the ball for him at all. The Broncos have not been perfect, though, right? So they beat the Jets by 2 points. They beat the Giants by 1. They played the Texans last week without C.J. Stroud for most of the game, and they won by 3. So on paper, they just don't look like a 7-2 team. But it's their defense has just been so effective at shutting these guys out. And I definitely think with how bad the Raiders with how bad the Raiders defense has been, the Broncos are going to be able to outscore them. So I'm not prepared to say that the Broncos are going to blow them away and cover this 10.5 point spread, but I am picking the Broncos to win.
All right. I was hoping you'd go with the Raiders.
Last time you were so confident of the Rams and 49ers, and that did not turn out.
Yeah, no, you're right. 100%. All right. Game 2. Steelers, Sunday Night Football. Steelers at Chargers. Chargers are favored 2.5. Who do you got in this one?
I think this is actually going to be a really good game. Both teams are kind of like in the middle of the pack as far as stats and everything goes, but they both are winning football teams. They both look like potential playoff teams. So the Steelers just upset the Colts in a really big win. The Chargers are on a winning streak right now, and the Chargers are at home. So this is a coin flip game for me, but with home and everything, I'm going to go with the Chargers in this one. Did you pick the Steelers or are you going Chargers?
I'm going Chargers too.
Okay.
Being at home, I probably would. Whoever was at home, I'd probably take in this.
Yeah, this one was kind of hard for me.
Tiebreaker. That's a tiebreaker for me. We'll see what Justin Herbert shows up here. I'm hoping the bad Aaron Rodgers shows up. You know, the one that throws picks or whatever. But I'm gonna go with the Chargers in this one. It'll be a close game. It'll be a good game. I expect it to be 1 score in the 4th quarter. Had to stay up late on Sunday night to see the results on this one. But I'm going to go with the Chargers. All right. Monday Night Football, we're definitely going to be paying attention to this game. 2 of the top teams in the NFC. You got the Philadelphia Eagles at the Green Bay Packers. 2.5 is the spread. That's favoring the Packers, which kind of surprised me. Just them losing last week. They, like you said, they haven't looked good. They should have lost to the Cardinals a couple weeks ago. And like you said earlier, they lost Tucker Kraft. I am taking the Eagles in this one. I'll be rooting for the Eagles. I'm taking the Eagles. We'll see what version of the Eagles offense shows up, and see if AJ Brown's going to play or not. I'm not sure about that. It looks like he's going to play at this point, but he was not traded, so he's going to be on the Eagles for the rest of the season. But I'm going with the Eagles. What about you? Which green team are you going to pick?
I was surprised too when I saw the spread. I had to double check on that. I was like, what? In what world are the Packers favored by 2.5 in this game? They came off a loss, which, I mean, okay, yes, they're at home, but they just lost at home to the Panthers. So now how are they favorites over the Eagles? The Packers have not beaten the Eagles in 5 years. The Eagles are defending Super Bowl champions. Yes, it's that kind of year. The Eagles are beatable. They got surprised by the Giants. The Broncos defense really, messed up the Eagles game plan when they lost that game too. So, I mean, if the Packers win this game, it's because it's like 10-13 again, and the Packers are sneaking away with it. I don't know if Vegas thinks the Eagles are coming off a bye too. So I don't know if Vegas thinks like the Eagles are going to come out slow off the bye week, or maybe something to do with AJ Brown not being there. Very, very surprised by the point spread in this one. But I don't see the Packers beating the Eagles unless they've cleaned up all their mistakes over the last few weeks and come out looking like a top team. And this is a huge game for them, right? Because if they want the 1 seed, they want to prove that they belong. They've got to come out in this one, and I don't see it happening, and I hope it doesn't happen. Like you said, I'm rooting Eagles.
Yeah. Well, if it goes the way we want this weekend, we could be first in the NFC North and just and
then don't
cruise right in. So we'll have to. We won't know the results until Monday night. All right, Jacob. Upset of the week. I am going with the 49ers over the Rams. The Rams are favored by 3.5. Brock Purdy may or may not play. Mac Jones has been doing it. I'm going with the 49ers over the Rams.
You suck. That's the same one that I have.
Really?
I looked at it. I was like, you know what? The 49ers are at home against the Rams. They're underdogs. The 49ers have been up and down, but they beat the Rams last time in overtime, and that was when Mac Jones had started. And it sounds like Brock Purdy's going to be back. So looking at the underdogs, I felt like this one was the most likely upset. But the other one, since you said that too, I just want to mention the other one that I wanted to say was the Giants over the Bears. I think the Bears are favored by like 4.5 or 5.5 over the Giants.
Yeah.
And, the Giants have a decent offense, and I wouldn't say that's out of the realm for them to upset the Bears.
Yeah, I looked into that too, and I think I picked the Giants to beat the Bears because it'd be just like the Bears to win a game like that and then just get crushed
Fall
the
flat
next week.
Right.
Just like, trap game or whatever you want to call it. But yep. All right. So all boring picks because we picked the exact same thing even on our upset of the week, but it's all right. Still enjoy watching the games, so we'll still have fun watching them. Check us out on our preview pod. We have Command This podcast, which we had on last year. Those three guys. We've got Phil, Steve, and Dev from Washington fans. I think their mindsets. We haven't talked to them yet tonight, but man, I gotta imagine their mindset is not great with this team. After Jane Daniels dislocated his elbow in a gruesome injury.
Gotta not be looking forward to the season anymore.
No, I'm sure they are. I feel bad for those guys, but not too bad because they beat us in the playoffs, so I still hate them. All right, So Jacob, anything else you want to talk about before we head out?
No, man, I'm ready.
All right, one thing to say. I'm Jason. He's Jacob. Go Lions!